Come closer, you've felt it, haven't you? That subtle shift, a whisper of wrongness. What if motion, life itself, began to stop? Imagine being trapped, aware but utterly still. A living statue. That is the horror. Before we dive deeper, join us. Like and subscribe, never miss a nightmare. Now meet Alex. Alex lived for movement, flowing through the city. It was their art, their very being. One morning, scaling an old brick wall, something felt off. Alex dropped a stone. It hung for a moment, too long, before hitting ground. Alex blinked. Just tired, they thought. They dismissed it. A trick of light or tired eyes. Alex was a master of focus, but even masters had off days. The city seemed normal, yet unease was planted. Later, Alex watched a juggler. Pins spun. Then, at their peak, they paused, frozen, an impossible moment before falling. Alex's breath hitched. This time it wasn't a trick. Alex felt a cold ripple, but they shook their head. Stress, lack of sleep. The mind played cruel games. They forced focus, pushing it away. As the day wore on, Alex noticed something. The city felt quieter. The usual hum seemed muted. Traffic, chatter, subway, all softer. An unnatural hush that didn't belong. The air felt different, thicker. Alex tried to ignore it, blame pollution or fatigue, but the feeling persisted, a nagging sense something was wrong. Their arms prickled. Movement was Alex's identity. A past injury threatened it. They fought back, reclaiming their flow. This new resistance stirred old fears, the fear of being still, broken. During their evening run, the subtle drag became undeniable. Each stride felt heavier. Air, once fluid, now felt like thick water. Alex pushed harder. An invisible hand held them back. They gritted their teeth, pushing harder. This was just a bad day. They wouldn't let it win, wouldn't let anything stop their flow. Bodies screamed, but Alex refused to yield. A jump over a railing felt wrong. Alex launched, but their leap seemed to stretch, hang before descent. It was observable. The world was subtly slowing. A chill, colder than the evening air, crept into Alex's bones. This wasn't fatigue or imagination. This was real. A creeping paranoia began. Was it someone or something worse? A gust of wind picked up a plastic bag. It should have flown instantly. Instead, it fluttered, then hovered, struggling against an invisible force before slowly drifting. Everything felt heavy. Alex squeezed their eyes shut, then opened them. Was their mind breaking? The world couldn't just slow down, but mounting evidence chipped away at sanity. The vibrant pulse of the metropolis was fading. Cars crawled. Pedestrians moved with strange, dreamlike slowness. The world was becoming a tableau where motion was a struggle. Alex found concrete barriers. They launched into jumps and vaults. Each movement, once fluid, was now a fight. Air resisted, pulling at limbs, demanding effort. Exhausting. A cold dread settled. This struggle against immobility was worse than their old injury. That was a battle against their body. This was against the world, a battle they were losing. They had to keep moving. If they stopped, truly stopped, what would happen? The thought was a chilling whisper. Stillness, being trapped, became primal terror. Momentum was life. Stasis was worse. Alex turned into a quiet plaza. Here, stillness was profound. A fountain, usually a cascade, now poured in slow, thick ribbons, each droplet hanging, stretching before falling. Unsettling. A pigeon, mid-flap, was suspended above the fountain. Wings outstretched, head tilted, a perfect snapshot of flight. It wasn't flying, it was still, perfectly still. Its eyes seemed to stare, aware, unmoving. Alex felt a scream build, but no sound escaped. This wasn't slowing. This was stopping, complete cessation of motion, and the pigeon was alive, aware. The horror clawed at their mind. This was the stasis bloom. They turned, desperate to run from this petrifying stillness. But the drag was everywhere. Each step was monumental, like pushing through thick mud. Legs heavy, muscles screaming, not from exertion, but resistance. A terrifying thought bloomed. Was it only the world outside slowing, or was this stillness seeping into them, into their very cells, blood, breath? Was their own body becoming a prison, mind still free? Air thickened, suffocating. Alex stumbled, movements jerky. The city, once their playground, transformed into a graveyard of frozen life. Alex, master of motion, felt pulled inexorably into its silent, horrifying embrace. Still, terribly conscious. The pigeon hung there suspended, not flying, not falling, just still. Its eyes, wide and black, seemed to stare, unblinking. A perfect snapshot of flight, but a horrifying one. This wasn't just slowing. This was stopping. Complete, terrifying cessation. And it was alive, wasn't it? Conscious? The horror clawed at Alex's mind. Its eyes, they were too alert, too aware for something that should be lifeless. They held a silent scream, a horror no sound could convey. Imagine being trapped, perfectly aware, but unable to move. A living statue. The thought was a cold spike to Alex's heart. Alex turned, desperate to run from this petrifying stillness. But the drag was everywhere. Each step was monumental, like pushing through thick mud. Legs heavy, muscles screaming, not from exertion, but from the world pushing back. The air itself felt like a solid wall. The city, once a symphony of sound, was fading into an unnatural hush. The distant hum of traffic, the chatter of voices, the rumble of the subway all seemed muted, softer. An oppressive silence was spreading, swallowing the vibrant pulse of the metropolis. Back in their apartment, Alex tried to make sense of it. They paced, but even the air indoors felt thick, resistant. The feeling of drag persisted, clinging to their limbs like cold, invisible chains. Was it fatigue, stress, or something far, far worse? The next day, during training, the resistance was undeniable. Alex attempted a complex route, a series of jumps and vaults. Each movement, once fluid, was now a painful fight. It was like running underwater, every muscle strained against an unseen force. A jump that should have been effortless became a battle. Alex launched themselves, but their leap seemed to stretch, to hang in the air for an impossible moment before they finally dropped. It felt like an invisible hand was pulling them back, holding them. Alex gritted their teeth, pushing harder. Their muscles screamed, not from exertion, but from the world itself pushing back. This wasn't just physical fatigue. This was the environment, the very air, resisting their every move. It was exhausting, terrifying. On the street, small, random objects began to halt. A dropped coin spun, then paused, before slowly clattering. A swirling leaf, caught in a breeze, hovered for a moment, then drifted. These brief, total halts were becoming more frequent, more obvious. Alex's mind struggled. Was this a shared delusion? Were others seeing it? Or was it just Alex, losing their grip on reality? The uncanny nature of it all gnawed at their sanity, chipping away at their perception of a stable world. Then the news reports began. vague mentions of unexplained phenomena or mass hallucinations across the city, brief segments about brief power fluctuations affecting motion sensors. No concrete answers, just dismissive tones. Alex saw a news clip on a public screen. The anchors spoke with forced calm, dismissing it as a mass illusion. But Alex knew better. This wasn't a trick of the mind. This was real, and it was spreading. The feeling of paranoia intensified. Alex felt watched, hunted by this unseen force. Who could they tell? Who would believe them? The city, once their playground, now felt like a vast, silent hunter closing in. Alex began to avoid crowded areas, seeking places where movement was still free, still fluid. But they found fewer and fewer. The parks, the side streets, even the air itself felt like it was thickening, becoming a trap. The uncanny valley of slowed motion in public spaces was chilling. People moved like puppets on strings, their limbs suspended in awkward mid-stride positions. It was a distorted dance, a grotesque parody of life, and it was deeply unsettling. Alex knew they had to understand. They were drawn back to the plaza, the place where they had first seen the pigeon. A morbid curiosity, or perhaps a desperate need for proof, pulled them back into the heart of the creeping stillness. The plaza was eerily quiet. The fountain, once a cascade, was now completely still. Water solidified mid-pour, each droplet a glassy bead, each ribbon a perfect, unmoving sculpture. It was a monument to petrified silence. Alex approached the pigeon. It was still there, perfectly preserved. Its feathers, its tiny claws, every detail was unnervingly clear. It was a masterpiece of stillness, a horrifying work of art. Alex knelt close to the pigeon. Its eyes were wide, unblinking, reflecting the pale sky. They held that same silent terror. It was a conscious prison, a living being trapped in an eternal, horrifying moment. The stasis bloom was real. Then Alex noticed another statue. A small, frozen butterfly on a vibrant flower, its wings spread perfect. It wasn't just animals. It was anything, everything, caught in the invisible web of stillness. The air around these frozen things felt colder, denser. It was like walking into a freezer, but without the chill. A profound, heavy stillness that pressed in, demanding all motion cease. A distant sound, a car horn, echoed briefly. Then it abruptly cut off. Not faded, not died out. Cut off. Total silence descended, heavier than before. The world was holding its breath. Alex noticed a child's forgotten toy car, mid-roll. It was completely unmoving. Its wheels were slightly off the ground, frozen. A simple object, but a chilling testament to the unseen force at work. A new, terrifying thought bloomed in Alex's mind. What if the stillness wasn't just outside? What if it was already inside, working its way out from within them, from their very cells, their blood, their breath? Was their own body becoming a prison, their mind still free? Then Alex felt it, a sharp, sudden jolt in their own body, a momentary, terrifying paralysis in their leg. It lasted only a second, but it was enough. A chilling whisper of absolute stillness, a taste of their own future. Alex stumbled, desperate to move, to escape, but the world was pulling them, inexorably, into its silent, horrifying embrace. Still, terribly conscious. The jolt in Alex's leg was like a cold, electric shock, a momentary pause, a terrifying taste of absolute stillness. It lasted only a second, but it was enough. The world wasn't just slowing, It was trying to stop Alex too. Their own body a prison. The thought was a chilling whisper, a new kind of fear. Alex stumbled, desperate to move, to shake off that feeling. They pushed through the thick air, each step heavy. Was it starting from within? This wasn't just the outside world, was it? This was a sickness, seeping into their very being, threatening their core. The next morning, the city felt different, not just quiet, but dead. The usual hum was gone, replaced by an unsettling silence. Alex stepped outside, a cold dread in their gut. The stasis bloom had spread. It had consumed more. Entire blocks were now silent, eerie tableau. A bus, mid-turn, was frozen solid. People caught in everyday actions, their faces blank, unmoving. What would you feel seeing a whole street turned into a museum of petrified life? Public spaces, once bustling, were now macabre art installations. A child on a swing frozen midair, a dog mid-leap, each figure a monument to a moment stolen, preserved forever. It was beautiful in a terrible way, a horror beyond words. Alex walked closer to one of the figures. A man mid-stride, his foot just inches from the ground. His clothes, every wrinkle perfectly preserved. Not a statue, not truly, but something far worse. The city was a graveyard of silent screams. Each frozen person was a chilling reminder of the bloom's power. It wasn't just stopping motion. It was consuming it, turning life into a living death. And it was still spreading. Alex knelt beside a woman pushing a stroller, both perfectly still. The woman's eyes were wide, unblinking. There was a spark there, a knowing. She was conscious. They were all conscious, trapped forever, aware of their own endless stillness. The full horror hit Alex like a physical blow. These weren't just statues. They were people, frozen in a single horrifying moment, their minds still active, screaming silently. Imagine that. To be forever trapped inside your own unmoving body. Alex saw a familiar face. A neighbor, Mr. Henderson, caught mid-reach for a dropped grocery bag. His eyes, fixed and hollow, held a silent plea. Alex knew him, knew the life he lived. And now this. A cold, deep dread settled over Alex. Mr. Henderson was just one of many, friends, strangers, all caught. The city was a monument to endless, conscious paralysis. It was a hell worse than death. Panic clawed at Alex's throat. They had to move. They had to escape this petrifying prison. Their minds screamed, "Don't stop, don't stop, don't stop." Momentum was life. Stillness was the end. Alex launched into a run, using their free-running skills to navigate the impossible landscape. Vaulting over frozen cars, leaping across unmoving crowds. Each movement was a desperate fight against the thickening air. The drag was worse now. Every step felt like pushing through thick, cold honey. Muscles screamed, not from exertion, but from the sheer resistance of the world. It was exhausting, terrifying, and relentless. Escape routes were increasingly blocked. Entire streets, once open paths, were now impassable walls of frozen objects and people. The city was closing in, becoming a maze of unmoving horror. Alex pushed harder, adrenaline coursing. They couldn't be caught. They couldn't become another silent scream in this frozen nightmare. The thought of being trapped, aware, was a torment beyond measure. Then Alex saw it. A shimmer in the air, a visible wave of stillness moving fast. The stasis bloom wasn't just spreading, it was surging. A silent, unstoppable tide consuming everything in its path. It was like watching a slow-motion explosion of silence. The wave rolled over buildings, cars, people, a chilling, visible line where motion ceased and eternal stillness began. It was fast, too fast. A police car, lights flashing, sirens wailing, was caught in the wave's path. Alex watched, horrified, as the sound cut off, not faded, but abruptly, completely gone. The lights froze mid-flash. The officer inside, mid-turn, was instantly transformed. Their mouth open in a silent scream, eyes wide, reflecting a terror that would never end. A perfect, petrified monument to a horrifying moment. Alex didn't stop to think. They ran faster than ever before, muscles screaming, pushing against the thickening air. The image of that officer, frozen in a silent scream, burned into their mind. The world was closing in. Every path, every escape route was becoming a gamble. The bloom was everywhere, a silent, invisible hunter. Alex was truly alone now, a tiny speck of motion in a world of terrifying stillness. The thought of being caught, like the officer, like Mr. Henderson, made Alex's blood run cold. To be aware, to feel, to think, but never to move again. A living death, a conscious prison. Alex scrambled onto a rooftop, looking out over the city. A vast, silent graveyard of motion. Buildings, streets, parks all frozen. Only a few distant pockets of movement remained, like dying embers. Alex collapsed, gasping on the cold concrete. Just inches from their outstretched hand, a small, frozen bird lay. Its eyes, wide and black, stared, not at Alex but beyond. And for a terrifying moment, Alex felt a familiar, chilling jolt. This time it lasted longer, much longer. The bloom was here, and it was waiting. The jolt in Alex's leg, a cold, electric silence, had lasted too long. It was gone now, but the echo remained. A whisper of absolute stillness that had tried to claim them. This wasn't just a slowing world. It was a hungry world. It was hunting. And Alex, with every desperate move, was a lure. Alex forced themselves to move, each step a conscious defiance. The cold dread from the jolt lingered. The stasis bloom wasn't just a force, it was a predator. It sought out kinetic energy. Every jump, every vault, every desperate run was a beacon in this silent, petrified landscape. The city's silence, once merely unsettling, now felt like a vast, waiting trap. Alex's free running, once their greatest strength, was now their greatest danger. It was a neon sign in a world that craved absolute stillness. What would you do if your very existence attracted the thing that wanted to consume you? Alex tried to move with stealth, to glide, to become less noticeable. But the need to keep moving, to keep momentum, was too strong. The alternative was a conscious paralysis, a fate worse than death. The air, thick and resistant, seemed to whisper warnings. The bloom was a hunter, its silent reach extending, always reaching for the last pockets of motion. Alex was a tiny, desperate flicker in its vast, unmoving gaze. Every breath felt like a challenge, every beat of their heart a defiant drum against the encroaching stillness. Then it began, not a sound but a thought, a whisper in Alex's mind, faint and agonizing. It was from one of the statues. A woman frozen mid-stride, her eyes wide and blank. No, not yet, the thought echoed, a silent, desperate plea. Another whisper, more distinct this time, from a man caught reaching for a falling briefcase. My daughter, tell her. The words were not spoken but felt. A cold, piercing agony that settled deep in Alex's skull. The horror deepened. They were not just trapped, but their suffering was broadcast. The whispers became a chorus, a horrifying symphony of silent suffering. From every frozen figure Alex passed, a wave of desperate, agonizing thoughts washed over them. A cacophony of silent screams invading their mind, pulling them closer to madness. Alex pressed their hands to their ears, trying to block out the invading thoughts. But they were not sounds, they were in their mind. A silent, constant torment, a testament to the conscious hell these people endured. Could you imagine such a burden? The horror of conscious paralysis was amplified 1,000 times by these mental screams. To be trapped, aware, and to feel the unending suffering of others. It was a cruel, new layer of torment. Alex felt their own sanity fraying at the edges. Was this real? Were these whispers truly from the frozen, or was their mind breaking under the strain? The line between reality and hallucination blurred. But the agony in the thoughts felt too raw, too genuine, to be mere imagination. Then a whisper, clear as a bell though silent, "My hand, it hurts." It came from a small, frozen bird, its wings snapped mid-flight. The thought was simple, pure, and undeniably from the creature. The whispers were real, the victims were alive and suffering. The whispers triggered a deeper, older fear, a memory of pain, of being unable to move, a flashback. Alex saw their knee, twisted, useless after the fall, the doctor's grim face. The crushing realization that their flow, their identity was stolen, the horror of immobility. The fear of being still, broken, unable to move had haunted Alex for years. They had fought their way back, reclaimed their motion. But now, the world itself was mirroring that deepest dread. The stasis bloom was not just an external threat. It was their nightmare made real. The internal and external horrors merged into a single, overwhelming fear. The city, a petrified prison, Alex's body, a ticking clock towards the same fate. Every strained movement, a desperate plea for freedom against the world's silent, crushing embrace. Their identity as a free-runner, tied to dynamic movement, was now a cruel irony. Each fluid action, once an expression of freedom, was now a dangerous lure, drawing the bloom closer. Alex was a moving target in a world that demanded perfect stillness. The past injury, a memory of forced stillness, became a haunting prophecy. Alex's body screamed with the effort of movement, but their mind screamed louder, "Don't stop, never stop." The psychological torment was as heavy as the physical resistance. Then Alex saw it, movement, not the shuddering, slow motion of the bloom's victims, but purposeful, if strangely calm, motion. A small group of people moving slowly, deliberately through the frozen streets, other survivors. A flicker of hope ignited. Alex approached cautiously, heart pounding. They moved with an unsettling slowness, a strange, almost serene gait. No panic, no desperation, just a quiet, unnerving calm. It was wrong, deeply wrong, what had happened to them. One of them turned, their face obscured by shadow. Their voice, when it came, was soft, almost a whisper. "Peace," they said, "there is peace in the stillness." Another added, "The bloom brings rest. Don't fight it." A chilling apathy had consumed them. They invited Alex to join them, to rest in the bloom's embrace. Their eyes, visible above their masks, held a terrifying, vacant calm. They weren't fighting, they were welcoming it. They had succumbed, not just physically, but mentally. Their minds were already gone. The horror wasn't just physical, it was a corruption of the mind. These survivors were not escaping, they were inviting the end. Alex fled, a primal scream caught in their throat. This was worse than being frozen. This was a willing surrender to the void. The survivors remained, watching with those empty, calm eyes. A new kind of trap, not just the physical cessation of motion, but a mental one. A horrifying acceptance that consumed the will to live, turning victims into willing monuments. Alex ran, faster than before, pushing past the thickening air, the silent screams, the memory of their own past injury. The city was a maze, and now even the living were part of its terrifying, silent embrace. There was nowhere safe, no one to trust. Alex scrambled onto a fire escape, gasping, but no sound came out. Their hand, outstretched to grip the railing, stopped, not slowed, stopped, perfectly, utterly still. A faint, shimmering frost crept over their fingers. It wasn't the jolt. It was a perfect, chilling halt. The bloom was not just consuming motion. It was claiming them piece by piece, and Alex felt it, every single horrifying, unmoving atom. The jolt had gone, but the ghost of it remained. Alex's hand, for a terrifying moment, had been perfectly, utterly still. Not slowed, not stiff, but halted, frozen. The faint frost on their fingers was gone, but the memory was a cold spike. The stasis bloom wasn't just consuming motion. It was claiming them, piece by piece, atom by atom. What would you do if your own body betrayed you like that? Alex forced their hand to move, then their arm, then their leg. Each action was a conscious effort, a defiance. But the memory of that perfect halt, that absolute stillness, clung to them. It was a promise, a threat, a taste of their own future. The world was not just slowing, it was trying to stop them forever. Physical fatigue set in, heavy and crushing. Every step was like walking through thick, cold mud. Their muscles screamed, not from exertion, but from the sheer, constant resistance of the air. It was a battle just to lift a foot, a fight just to breathe. Then came the mental fatigue, a deep, bone-weary exhaustion that went beyond tired muscles. It was the mind itself, begging for rest, for an end to the endless struggle. The thought of simply stopping, of letting go, felt like a warm, inviting blanket. A whisper began to form in Alex's mind, soft and seductive. Stop, it seemed to say. Just stop. There is peace in the stillness. An end to the pain, the fear, the endless fight. It was a chilling temptation, promising an end to the terror. Alex fought against it, gritting their teeth. This was the bloom, not just attacking their body, but their mind. This was a deeper horror. To give in, to welcome the stillness, was to surrender everything. But oh, how sweet that surrender sounded. Every frozen figure they passed seemed to echo that seductive whisper. Their blank eyes, their still forms, seemed to invite Alex to join them. Peace, they seemed to say, rest. A museum of endless, silent suffering, calling for company. Alex stumbled into an old, abandoned library, seeking shelter from the silent city. Dust motes hung in the air, frozen. The quiet was absolute, heavy, a place untouched, perhaps, by the bloom's full power, or so they hoped. Deep within the shadowed stacks, Alex found a section on ancient myths, forgotten lore. A dust-covered book, its pages brittle, seemed to call to them. It felt wrong, out of place, in this modern, petrified world, but they opened it anyway. The text was dense, confusing, but certain words, certain phrases leaped out. The great stillness, the entropic heart, ancient preserver. A chill ran down Alex's spine. This wasn't just a phenomenon. It was something old, something terrible. The words described the stasis bloom as an entity from beyond human thought. not just a force, but a conscious, ancient thing. A preserver of suffering, it called it. Something that didn't just stop motion, but bottled the agony of awareness. It was beyond understanding, beyond anything humanity could ever hope to fight. An ancient, cosmic horror that saw motion as a disease and stillness as its ultimate cure. A cure that left its victims perfectly aware, trapped in eternal torment. The book spoke of its purpose, to siphon away all kinetic energy, leaving only the conscious shell, a monument to silent suffering. It wasn't random, it was deliberate. A vast, silent harvest of agony collected for some unknown, monstrous purpose. It explained how the bloom literally drained away motion, leaving consciousness intact. Like a battery, it consumed kinetic energy, leaving behind a living, breathing, thinking statue. A horror beyond imagination. Despair settled over Alex, cold and heavy. How could they fight this? An ancient, incomprehensible entity that turned entire cities into museums of conscious pain. Their struggle felt pointless. The world was already lost. The stillness's pull grew stronger, a physical weight pressing down. Alex felt their limbs growing heavier, their movements becoming sluggish. The seductive whisper returned, louder now, promising sweet release. Each step was a monumental effort. Their bodies screamed to stop, to lie down, to simply cease. The thought of collapsing, of letting the bloom claim them, was almost overwhelming. What would you do if your own body fought against you like this? Was it truly peace, or was it a trick? The book had said preserver of suffering. To stop, to give in, would that truly be an end? Or would it be eternal, conscious torment, just like the frozen figures outside? The battle raged within Alex, the primal urge to survive versus the overwhelming temptation of surrender. To move was to suffer, to stop was, what? An unknown, terrifying fate, but the fight was so tiring. No, they wouldn't give in, not yet, not while there was a flicker of hope, a single beat of their heart still moving. The thought of being a silent scream, trapped forever, was a torment worse than any physical pain. They had to keep moving. Then a specific passage in the ancient text caught their eye. A faint glow seemed to emanate from the words. It spoke of a vibrant core, a pulse of life that resists the stillness. A counter-force, a weakness. The text described its location, deep within the oldest, most petrified zone of the city, the heart of the bloom's power. It was a place where nothing moved, where the stillness was absolute, ancient. A desperate, almost suicidal journey. To go there meant facing the bloom at its strongest, to risk total, immediate cessation, but it was the only chance, the only hope of fighting back, of finding a way to reverse this nightmare. It was a desperate gamble. Alex took a deep breath, the thick air burning their lungs. The seductive whisper of stillness tried one last time, but Alex pushed it away. They would go. They would face the heart of the bloom. It was the only way. Alex stepped into the deepest silence, each movement a profound struggle. The air here was like liquid cement, but as their foot landed, they felt it. Not just resistance, but something new. The ground beneath them, solid moments ago, seemed to ripple. Tiny, almost invisible cracks spread out from their foot, as if their very movement was causing the world to shatter, not just freeze. The bloom wasn't just stopping motion. It was turning the world brittle. And Alex, the freerunner, was breaking it, piece by piece, with every desperate step. The air was liquid cement. Each breath burned, each step was a monumental push against a world turning brittle. Alex felt the ground ripple beneath their feet, not from impact, but as if their very movement was causing the world to shatter, not just freeze. The bloom wasn't just stopping motion. It was turning the world fragile, and Alex, the freerunner, was breaking it, piece by piece, with every desperate step. The resistance was immense, pushing against their very bones, their very will. It was like running through solid rock, every fiber screaming in protest. Alex pushed, gritted their teeth, refusing to yield. The world was a wall, and they were trying to punch through it. But the wall was too thick, too vast, too ancient. Then came the whispers, not sounds but thoughts, flooding Alex's mind from every frozen figure. A chorus of silent screams, a cacophony of agony. Don't stop. Don't join us. They pleaded, then shifted. Peace. Join us. The bloom was twisting their minds, turning their suffering into a twisted invitation. Alex forced their gaze forward, towards the heart of the stillness, the vibrant core the book had spoken of. It was a desperate, suicidal dash, their only hope, or perhaps their final delusion. The city was a maze of petrified horror, and they were running deeper into its silent embrace. The air became almost solid, pressing in on them, crushing their lungs. Each breath was a gasp, each heartbeat a struggle against the overwhelming pressure. It was like being buried alive in slow motion. The bloom was not just a force, it was a physical presence, demanding absolute submission. Alex's body screamed, muscles locked, joints stiff. Their legs, once instruments of fluid motion, were now leaden weights. The physical pain was immense, but the mental torment was worse. The fear of being still, trapped, was a constant, icy claw in their gut. The memory of their past injury, the crushing immobility, flooded their mind. It wasn't just a memory now, it was a prophecy. The bloom was making their deepest fear real, not just for a moment, but for eternity. The horror of being unable to move, conscious, returned with a vengeance. Then through the shimmering air, Alex saw it, the vibrant core. It wasn't a pulse of life, not a counterforce. It was a place of absolute, perfect stillness. The heart of the bloom's power, a cruel, final trick. Hope died a silent death. The bloom's presence here was overwhelming. A silent, crushing weight that pressed in from every direction. It wasn't just a force, it was a hungry void, consuming all motion, all life, leaving only petrified agony. Alex was at its very center, a tiny, defiant flicker. The vibrant core was an ancient, perfectly preserved building. No dust motes stirred, no air moved. It was a monument to absolute stillness, a place where time itself had ceased. This was the source, the entropic heart the book had warned about. There was no counter-force. Around the building, countless figures stood frozen. People, animals, mid-action. A bird mid-flight, its wings outstretched, every feather perfect. Their eyes, wide and unblinking, held the silent scream of conscious torment. They were all aware, all suffering. This was the true horror, not death, but eternal, conscious paralysis, a living monument to silent suffering. Alex was surrounded by a sea of these living statues, each one a testament to the bloom's ultimate, horrifying power. What would you do, knowing you were next? Alex tried to activate something, anything. A counterforce, a pulse, a vibration. They pushed their hand against the shimmering, solid air around the building. It was like pushing against glass, cold and unyielding. There was no secret, no escape, only the stillness. The bloom responded, not with force, but with an even deeper, more profound stillness. A wave of absolute cessation rippled out from the ancient building, washing over Alex. It was a silent, cold embrace, pulling them closer to their inevitable fate. The sensation was horrifying, not being pulled but being solidified, as if their very atoms were locking into place. It started in their fingers, a chilling halt, then their hand, their wrist, a perfect, terrifying stillness spreading through their body. Alex's limbs began to stiffen, piece by piece. Their legs, once so fluid, now felt like stone. They tried to move, to run, to scream, but the resistance was absolute. Their muscles, their tendons, their very blood was becoming a part of the static tableau. The horror of feeling their own body become rigid, yet their mind remain active, was a torment beyond measure. Every nerve ending screamed, not from pain, but from the utter conscious paralysis. This was it, the nightmare made real. The mental screams of the frozen figures around them became Alex's own, a chorus of silent agony now amplified by their own impending doom. No, not yet, Alex thought or tried to, but even thought felt heavy, sluggish, about to cease. The irony of it all. Motion, freedom, life itself was Alex's identity, and now they were being consumed by the very opposite, trapped in a world of perfect stasis, a living monument to the ultimate irony, a free runner perfectly still. Alex's eyes, wide with terror, were the last part to move. They darted, desperate, taking in the petrified world around them. The silent figures, the ancient building, the realization, this was not an end. It was a beginning, an eternal one. The final thought, a desperate wish, to move, to flow, to feel the wind, the ground, the very pulse of life, but it was gone, replaced by a cold, absolute stillness. The world, their body, was now a single, horrifying sculpture. Alex was fully consumed, their bodies solidified into a perfect, conscious statue, a living monument in a silent, frozen world of endless suffering. Their last movement, a desperate lunge, immortalized in petrified agony. Their eyes, wide and unblinking, reflected the silent, unmoving world. They saw, they felt, they thought, but they could never move again. A conscious prison, a silent scream, forever. The world was a silent, endless museum of conscious suffering. Each figure, a living exhibit, trapped in a single horrifying moment. And Alex, the freerunner, was now its newest, most perfect addition, a monument to the terror of absolute stillness. The stasis bloom continues its silent, relentless spread. It is always seeking, always consuming, always preserving. You've felt that subtle shift, haven't you? That whisper of wrongness? What if it's already here? What if it's already begun to reach for you?